Welcome everybody to a new episode of Flower Circus Talks. The talks where we talk with the most interesting people from within our flower industry worldwide. And this week we really have a special guest. A very colorful guest, I must say. This week's guest is Henck Röling, a freelance master florist based in London. He was also one of the contestants of the Big Flower Fight, which was on Netflix, a great series about our industry. So I'm really looking forward to this interview. And before we go to the interview, I would like you, if you like this interview, please subscribe and like our channel so you will see more of those colorful guests coming by during the Flower Circus Talks. Enjoy the interview. So Henck, welcome. I have a lot of colorful people already in the show, but I mean, you are the one and only. I mean,
king of color.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you look like a painting.
Thank you. I'm the boy with the pearl earring.
Yeah.
Or I could be like a Rembrandt Staalmeesters, one of the famous paintings.
Yeah.
It's dressing up is sort of something that's become part of me over the years.
And mixing styles and mixing painters as well. We have Rembrandt and Vermeer in one now.
I like a sort of a mashup of everything.
Yeah, wow, really cool. And that's how people know you now as well. I think if you just go in jeans and a black t-shirt, nobody will recognize you.
They will, but they'll ask me, "Oh, are you feeling well? Are you sick? Are you not all right, are you?" Just because I'm not wearing colors or weird stuff. Yeah.
Have you always been this expressive and
I think moving to London 14 years ago has sort of made it worse. I say worse, but I mean it has sort of emphasized my individuality. Eccentricity here is much more celebrated. People respond in a sort of very positive way. Strangers in the street will sort of come to me and say, "Oh my God, you look amazing. You really made my day." Whereas in Holland, it would be much sort of more sort of like, "You look a bit weird." But it would always be sort of in a slightly more sort of critical way, I think. So yeah, I think moving to London has definitely helped me express myself more. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. I just wanted to say, I mean, in Holland, it's like, okay, just be normal, then you're already crazy enough. That's what we say.
Yeah.
So, born, raised in Holland.
Holland, the youngest of 6 kids. Grew up on a farm in the polder in Meidrecht. And from a very young age, I was always in the garden, and I was sort of making my own little garden, my parents' garden, and sort of sowing seeds and sort of grow dried flowers that I would dry then in one of the stables on the farm. So yeah, it's always been in the blood.
Yeah. Wow. And then you started educating in flowers as well.
Yeah. I wanted to be a gardener, so I went to Aalsmeer to the lagere tuinbouwschool, sort of education. And I was convinced I was going to be a gardener because I love that. But it was a little bit boring. We were hoeing the school garden, and that was sort of about it.
Yeah.
And because we had like the second year, we had like blocks of all the different directions. So they were just sort of as a taster. And floristry was much more instant. We could use the flowers from the school garden, and you were making something. And I think I enjoyed that much more. So I chose floristry rather than gardening, and so although I still like gardening, and it's got a very sort of soft spot in my heart, I'm much more a florist now, really. Yeah.
So in Aalsmeer, first lagere tuinbouwschool, and then what happened next?
After that, I went to the middelbare, the second one, and then sort of a little bit of a what shall I do now next, and sort of thought about going to art school, but then sort of thought it's all very sort of, it was all a bit abstract, so I didn't do that, and then did masterclass in Utrecht, Houten, the agraric education center there, which I really loved. It was also slightly more abstract, but it was 1 day a week. besides working in the flower shop, 1 day a week to school. In the morning we had like making stuff, and in the beginning it was sort of a bouquet but different, and it became more and more expressive and more sort of after themes that they would give us. And I love that sort of, you had like a week to sort of think what you were going to make, sourcing materials, sort of finding things, and then in the afternoon there was like color studies and sort of art history, and we had to learn lots of flower plant names, obviously, that sort of stuff. But I love that. It was very much sort of learning a new way to look at things and sort of try to sort of get you away from the usual patterns that people would look at the world. And best thing ever that I've done, I have to say.
And it's more art than it's also, of course, with flowers, but it goes more towards the art.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly sort of further on in the education, because I remember the very first block, I think it had 4 blocks of study, and the first block was still sort of shop work, but already sort of like from a different angle. And from there on, it sort of moved on to much more experimental and sort of big installation kind of type of work. And it was brilliant.
Yeah. I had a girlfriend that was on that study as well, and I can remember the sleepless nights helping her out, making all the constructions and everything.
Yeah, I had that. I think for my final piece, I had my whole family, because I made it out of grass, and I sort of used a scythe to go round to make long sheets of grass, because I couldn't use a mower. And then I had my whole family bunching it up and sort of laying it out so that it could sort of not quite dry, but I didn't want it to just go moldy. And oh god, yeah, it was quite intense. But that's the fun of it, and I guess that's also something that helps you, because in my job these days, it's sort of, there's a lot of planning involved in events, and because I work as an events florist now, so that it really sets you up for planning and sort of that. It's been a very good education.
Yeah, and not only being creative with the materials, but also being creative with the situation. What will happen? Okay, something drastically changed, the weather changed, the venue or whatever.
I think that is a very good thing. I mean, besides my education, I also did sort of scouting for 10 years, where I was going on summer camp, and there was always lots happening, and we sort of planned the whole storyline and make costumes and sets and things for the kids to sort of get drawn into this story. And it was always like a good force and an evil force that was sort of battling it out, and the kids would obviously help the good force overcome the evil. That was sort of the bottom line of every story, but very different every year. And we had to be very creative there and sort of think on our feet and improvise, because sometimes things would turn differently, and then we had to completely sort of change our storyline and still come up with a good story. So improvisation, I think, is a very, very important point in what we do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and after school or after all your studies, you started traveling a bit, I think.
Well, I worked in a flower shop for quite a while, and then I was asked, because I was a master florist, and I remember the last year they sort of, when you graduated, they said, "Oh, do you want to be in this database for master florist for if maybe jobs abroad?" And I sort of signed up to that, not thinking anything would come of it. But in 1997, a long time ago. There was a florist in Israel who asked if I wanted to come and work there, and my parents had been there on holiday like 2 years before, and I was like, "Oh, that sounds quite nice." So I just sort of quit my job and went to Israel and worked there for a year at all the big Jewish weddings and stuff like that. And they had a small flower shop in Hadera, which is quite a provincial town, but it was a good florist. And I would sort of do the shop window every 2 weeks. I would completely change everything, and it was really good fun.
Yeah,
and nice to sort of get a different culture and a different sort of different flavor of floristry. I particularly enjoy that experience.
And I think also the events are on a higher level than I mean, in Holland we just said, if you're normal, it's already crazy enough. That's what we see in most of the weddings in Holland as well.
Yeah, Yeah, I think well, the Jewish weddings are particularly known for being elaborate, and 500 wedding guests is almost like minimum. So there would always be like 50 table centers because they'll have 10 people on a table. So there was always a lot of table centers, and then they have the chuppah, the sort of little thing that they sort of get married underneath.
Yeah.
There was always a lot of flowers involved. But I have to say, having moved to London 14 years ago, the event industry here is even madder. There's a lot of people with a lot of big budgets, and weddings is something that people want to create a life, once in a lifetime sort of event. So yeah, flowers are important.
Yeah.
And we make it like amazing. Sometimes it's really mind blowing what we do. And it's not just me, it's always like a team, because there's limited time to do it. So we need a lot of people to sort of get it done in the time that's set for it.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people don't realize. That, I mean, we can't, or you can prepare some of the things,
Yeah.
but the flowers need to be in there very last moment.
Yeah. It's got to be fresh.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of it as well. And I have to say, some of the stuff that we do, especially if we do a lot of things for Chelsea in Bloom, which runs simultaneously with Chelsea Flower Show.
Yeah.
Basically an exhibition where shops have their shop front sort of dressed with flowers and organic materials, and quite a lot of that is sort of made more out of just natural materials. So last year we made like a full suit for a man and a lady out of honesty leaves, the tiny little leaves, which took 3 people 6 days to make.
Wow.
And then it goes into the exhibition, and besides that, there was like camels and there was elephants, and that all sort of has a lot of impact. But those suits, they were so detailed and so intricate. I think if you're not a florist, you wouldn't even appreciate the sheer amount of work that goes into these kind of things sometimes.
Yeah, I think the florist will immediately recognize and think, "Wow,
it's like mind blowing." But you normal people just say, "Oh, that's a nice suit."
Yeah. Oh, maybe take a picture and
yeah. But that's fine as well. I mean, that is the fun of it, of the whole exercise. I think that to make it look effortless almost, isn't it?
Yeah, but also I think that's with everything. We're just talking about Rembrandt and Vermeer. Looking at those paintings, you can think, wow, they did a nice job. And somebody who's into painting thinks, okay, that just 10 square centimeters took him a week or 2.
Yeah.
Or even more.
And I think also, because I think that's something that a lot of people forget when they, especially when it's about price and things, and people, well, we have had to go through a long education and get experience by doing it over and over and over again to get to the level where we can do the things that we do quite so easily as we do them. And that's with a lot of art that sometimes that is not always appreciated. Ooh, well, I could do that. Well, if you can, just do it yourself.
No, I think a lot of people forget that it's a real profession being a florist.
Oh,
being
yeah.
As a florist, then you're on top of that level. But just, of course, it looks nice working with flowers every day, but going to the market, New Covent Garden, 4 a.m. to get the flowers in.
3:45.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah, tomorrow morning again. Yeah, it's part of the job.
Yeah.
I can't say I enjoy the very, very, very early starts, but it's we have a really nice team early in the morning, and it's always fun. We'll make something out of it.
And in the end, probably you will even miss it if you don't go out early morning.
Yes, because last year, or what was it, 2 years ago, when the pandemic started and all the contracts dried up overnight, I was like, oh my God. I sort of missed the Monday night because there was a good sort of camaraderie and lots of friendships being there. And suddenly you don't see it. Well, because of the pandemic, we couldn't see each other full stop.
Yeah.
But that was really weird. So I was quite pleased when everything sort of started back up again and we could sort of go back to our Monday early mornings.
Yeah, I mean, you meet fellow florists and you're all in the same position. And I don't like waking up early morning. Me neither.
But it's part of what we do, isn't it? It's one of those things.
Oh, I've been to quite some wholesales in the UK, and then hearing those guys. The truck comes in at 1:30 at night. their work day starts at 1:30 to get everything ready to be shipped to the florist in time before they open the shop. I mean, they do an amazing job.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, we are up early, but some of the wholesalers are up even earlier. So I'm not complaining really.
yeah.
There's always people worse off than us.
Yeah. You already said that gardening is also one of the favorite things you do, and
Yeah.
that's actually, I think, maybe it wasn't even a paid job, but it was your first job when you came to London.
Yes. I started off as a volunteer at Kew Gardens. I live in Twickenham in London, which is sort of southwest London suburb, and well, I got in sort of fresh off the boat, and I was like, what am I going to do? And then I saw that Kew Gardens was looking for volunteers for gardening, and started there as a volunteer, and that was. I mean, it was also a way of sort of embedding myself in a new life, in a new city, meeting new people, but with the same interests as I had. So I started in the Arboretum, which was the part with all the trees in the garden.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of weeding and tree circles and quite menial jobs, but it was good fun because we were always with a team and just meeting nice people. It was I enjoyed that. And then when they found out I was a florist, they asked me to help them out with the annual orchid festival that they're building, and my role there became sort of more and more important, I would almost say. and these days they pay me to build the orchid festival for them, and then not that I do that on my own, because it's a massive big glass house and there's lots of different displays, and the last couple of years there's always been countries that are the theme of the orchid festival. So this year it's Costa Rica, 2 years ago it was Indonesia, the year before we had Colombia. So they have these countries that they sort of have close relationships with. They do like restoration or different programs with those countries to sort of get nature and get flowers back on the agenda there. And so Costa Rica has done amazingly. They have sort of put a lot of new forest in, and there's a lot of ecotourism. So it's a very biodiverse country. So I built in total 33 animals that you'll find in Costa Rica, and they're sort of dotted around the glass house, and it's just great fun. I love it.
Yeah, I just saw a video with you having, I think it was 20 monkeys there.
20 Yeah, there was something, because I mean, there's a team that sort of comes up with a theme, and there's we want a capsule monkey in the exhibition. And 2 years ago, when it was Indonesia, we had orangutans and another type of monkey, and I was a bit like, I don't want to do like 2 or 3 again, because these sort of capsule monkeys, they live in big groups. They're like a family that sort of travels together through the tree tops. And I was, let's do 20 of these monkeys, because then you get a real sort of sense of how they live together and how they interact together. And I said that to my manager, and she was like, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And I said, "Yes, let's do it. My camera is moving. Why is it moving? I don't want it to move." So I did 20 of them. But it's real fun, because I made a few sort of smaller ones that are babies, and they're basically, some are sitting sort of on a ledge above the door, and then they sort of hang in midair, because we were sort of thinking, do we need to have branches or sort of like a rope that they swing from? But actually, just the whole sort of bustle, and they all sort of move in the same direction. It has a real sort of, it's got a good dynamic. And I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, they're my favorites," because you can make your own story around how they sort of interact and how they're sort of, it's very playful.
Yeah, and also some turtles I saw.
Some turtles, that we suspended from the ceiling as well, because it was sort of funny, because I made those turtles during the very first lockdown, because I didn't have much work at the time, and I thought, as soon as Kew allowed volunteers back, I thought, I'll go in. We know the theme for next year's festival, which was supposed to happen last year, but only this year. So I started off some of the frames of the animals and some of the things that I could prepare in advance. So I made 2 turtles that year, and then we were sort of thinking of having them on the pond, but but I wasn't quite sort of feeling that when we talked about this. Maybe we should suspend them above the pond, and then we can give them a little bit more sort of an angle so that they get a little bit more dynamic. And then we had hung 2 of them, and then I was looking at them. We need a third one. So I rustled up a third one. Luckily, I used bark, birch bark, for the shield of the turtles. And I had some left, so I made another one that sort of flies off into the distance, and that third one really gives it like a sense of movement. It's really fun. Yeah.
And it's called, it's the Orchid Show, so you see hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands of orchids and different types as well.
Yeah. It's funny because a lot of people always ask, all those orchids, are they being grown in Cuba? But no, they're not. They don't have the facility to do that. So most of them come from Holland.
Yeah.
Where we have obviously the big nurseries that can supply the quality and the consistency that they need for the Orchid Festival. There's always like thousands of Phalaenopsis, because they're blousy and they last really well. And then there's Oncidium and the American orchids, so the smaller sort of species ones. There's an awful lot of them, and then we have a Vanda order, the epiphytic, that are always beautiful, and there's like mixed plants going in as well. So there's bromeliads and anthurium and Nepenthes, the carnivorous one. There's always a massive mixture in the end of different plants, because we sort of dress arches with flowers and plants, and if it would just be orchids, it would be just a bit boring, I think. So it's nice to sort of mix it up as well in places.
Yeah, for sure. And then it's happening every year, and it's
every year.
A lot of work.
That's basically it's 4 weeks full time that I'm there, and by the end I sleep. In the beginning I'm fine, but sort of after week 3 I sort of start dreaming about orchids and the thing. I still need to do this, and I'm always working on a lot of different areas at the same time. So it can be quite stressful. I think, I still need to do that, and that sort of starts to sort of go around in my mind. And also that sort of by the end I'm like, not another Phalaenopsis, because I had so many in my hands by that time. But then it's funny because it sort of it opens. There's always a press day, and there's sort of press coming and photographers and bits and pieces, and then the sort of the fun starts, because then you get people coming around and sort of giving feedback on what you've done, and then you're like, oh yeah, it's actually really nice. And yes, they are beautiful, even though I'm by that time they're sort of up to here for me.
Yeah,
they're still beautiful.
But I think that's the best thing about our job, seeing the reaction of people, even just giving away a bunch of tulips.
Yeah,
the smile on people's faces, or the smile when they walk through the Kew Gardens.
Yeah.
Enjoying everything, taking pictures of everything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
Yeah, it's nice. I remember because this year, 2 years ago, the ambassador of Costa Rica came round while we had the Indonesia festival with the director of Kew Gardens, just to sort of give him an idea of what an orchid festival entails. And I had a little brief conversation with the ambassador, and he came back on the afternoon of press day just to have a sort of like a sneak preview of what it was. And I had another really long conversation with him. I said, I spoke to you 2 years ago. And he said, oh yeah, I remember that. And then on the evening, there's like always an official opening with the director, and the ambassador was there as well. And he brought lots of other ambassadors from Ecuador and Venezuela and Honduras. So there was lots of sort of ambassadors and things around, and they all wanted an orchid festival about their country, which is quite funny. But I told him, I said, I hope we did your country justice, because that's sort of what you want. You want to tell the story of that country in that orchid festival. And he said it's almost better than the real thing. Which I don't believe that. He was just trying to be nice, but it does give a real good sense of a country, and sort of trying to educate people as well about the different projects that they run. I mean, they won the Earthshot Prize. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah.
And they have a very young and ambitious prime minister. So I think they are really sort of like a good country that's sort of leading the way into a more sustainable future.
Yeah, there's actually a Dutchman with his wife.
Yeah.
They're living there, and they're doing eco-friendly tourism there as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you can drive around in an electric car there, and it's with all kind of crazy, beautiful prints on it.
Yeah.
And I think the last one was the Jaguar E-Type with all Jaguars on it. So it was.
I made a Jaguar for the Orchids. So.
You see.
Yeah. I think that is definitely a way forward, and it might at the moment still be for people that sort of have a little bit more disposable income, because an eco holiday will probably be a little bit more expensive than a regular sort of chartered flight to south of Europe. But I think we are going in that direction. It will become more important, because we have only one planet and we need to be very careful with it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just noticed with all the storms again.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Kew Gardens is one of the main things you do, but a lot of people also know you from the telly.
Yeah, I've done a little telly on the side. No, it was funny because it was weird. My friend Jan Skates, who is a florist who runs his own sort of events company here in London, and I know him via the flower markets here in London.
Yeah.
And he phoned me up one sunny Sunday morning saying, "Oh, there's this new program," and at that point we didn't know anything that it was building organic sculptures or flower sculptures, we thought. So do you want to do that? And so there was a long list of questions that we had to answer, send photographs, all that sort of stuff. And then we were apparently selected for the next round, and we had a Zoom interview where we had to sort of introduce ourselves and I guess see how well we sort of get across in camera. And then we were invited for a screen test, and that was, they told us there's 40 people that are invited for the screen test, and out of those 40 we're going to pick 10. And we didn't know anyone else who was invited. Well, there was one other couple that we knew of. So we turned up there. We were the first one early in the morning, and we had instantly quite a good bond with a couple of the people that were there. And we just had a laugh with it, and we weren't very serious because we thought they're never going to go for us, because we were sort of slightly older and sort of a little bit quirky probably. And then we were just really surprised when the phone call came and they said, "Oh yeah, you made it onto the show." And suddenly we're like, "Oh, now we actually have to do some work."
Yeah.
Which was quite funny. So a lot of the episodes we were given a brief like 4 weeks in advance. So we had to sort of design everything, even though on the television it's edited in such a way that it looks like we come up with it on the spot. But
Yeah.
a little bit of liberty in that. But also when we became known that it was Netflix, we were like, "Oh my God, this is actually a really big thing."
Yeah.
And the production was so good. The lighting, the sound. There was so many people involved. It looked very slick as a production.
Yeah, it really does. And in previous interviews, you said it's called the Big Flower Fight.
Yeah.
But the one group of friends. So the name.
Yeah. It was absolutely weird, because they sort of try to sort of sometimes set us up to each other.
Yeah.
Like or sort of challenge us to challenge each other. And it happened a little bit, but more in jest than for real, because we were all sort of together in a hotel for the duration of the shoot of an episode. We were staying together in a hotel, so there was like in the evenings, during the day we're sort of building our own thing and sort of very much into our own process, but in the evening we were just sort of drinking and laughing and sort of having a good time together, because there was nothing else to do there. So yeah, really good bonds were made, and it was really sad to see people go. Every episode, obviously, there was one couple that was sort of sent home, and it sometimes was heartbreaking to see people go.
No, I can imagine, and then
Yeah,
telling as well, helping each other out as well. It was not just a fierce.
Jan and I, we were sort of probably one of the most experienced couples on the show. Another reason why we thought that will never go for us. And we especially the first episode, they played a little bit on the time, because they said you get 3 days for it. And we were basically done in two and a half with a bit of fiddling.
Yeah.
So then we was like, oh well, there's other people that haven't finished yet. Let's help them. So we helped quite a lot of people during the first couple of episodes, and it was only in episode 5, I think, when we had the dried flower challenge, was when one of the judges suddenly sort of turned around and said, "You can't help them because then I won't be able to judge what they're doing." And but it's their design. We're just helping them finish it.
Yeah.
So yeah, from that moment on, we couldn't really help other people anymore, which was a but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you want to. I mean, their design is their thing, but you want to have it that it looks good as well. Also for the
Exactly. We want everyone to have a good product in the end.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you and Jan, I mean, that was a great couple. I even had a big laugh on the YouTube video you had together, the flower nerds.
We are a bit of a funny team.
Yeah. I'll recommend everybody to watch that video because yeah, a great one.
Good.
I mean, it's good. You together, you're a great team.
Yeah.
And it showed throughout all the episodes, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, and I mean, I think this program finally put the whole floristry or of the whole flower industry in a really good daylight. People got more interested in it. I mean, we already seen all the baking shows and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
And now finally,
and I think the timing was very good as well, because there was already a sort of like a slight sort of trend toward people getting more house plants and that sort of kind of thing. And during the lockdown, obviously it came live in May, sort of very early on in the lockdown. People had nothing to do, so they would watch a lot of television, and there was the flower nerds, oh no, not the flower nerds, the big flower fight, and I think that sort of emphasized that a lot of people sort of gotten into gardening and growing their own vegetables and sort of doing more creative things with flowers. And I think that was a very sort of strong, basically a very strong moment to go live with.
yeah. For you, it has had a disadvantage as well. I mean, after the show, probably you as a event florist would have had a lot of work from that.
Yeah, well, I wasn't short on work before COVID. I had the first 3 months of lockdown was there was no work at all, and then in the UK they started having micro weddings coming back. Initially 6 people, then 30. So my work quite quickly sort of started trickling back. By Christmas, my work was regular again. Okay. So I didn't have a lot of missed opportunity. But I guess, yeah, there was talk with a Colombian florist that wanted us to come over for the Colombian flower show, or they had like, not a flower show, they had like a sort of a bridal show that they wanted us to have, like do something big for them, like a demonstration. And that obviously fell through because there was no traveling, not that distance at least.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had a few things. We did something for Hendrik's gin, with we made a giant cucumber out of flowers for them, because that gin is infused with cucumber. That's why. Yeah. So that was a fun project. There was sort of like a photo shoot, and we did some filming with that. But it was not like a big campaign. It was just sort of something that I do for their social media and for sort of smaller newspapers. And we did a festival, which is, we are not a festival.
Yeah.
We did like a monkey making workshop for them. So we were set in the middle of the forest, and we were sort of making monkeys out of bits and pieces that we were found, and we gave everyone some chicken wire, sort of just like on the show. And we sort of, it was really fun because Ralph and Jim and the other team that was in the final that didn't win, they came and helped us, and we made it like a real sort of big flower fight experience where it's like, you've got an hour and a half to go. Oh, so yeah, it was really fun to do that sort of kind of thing.
Yeah,
I would never have met Ralph and Jim if it wasn't for that show. And they're amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and you got a lot of new friends now there via the show as well.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. So now, yeah, back into normal life, doing the things you do normal, the Kew Gardens, obviously, but also the designing, or you're a freelance master florist.
Yeah. So yeah, I hire myself out to florists in London mainly. to help them with their events needs. So they are in contact with the client, but they have a big event. They need like 20 florists, and sometimes it's only 5. But they will come to me and say, "Oh, this is what we need." They give us a brief. It's got to be done by 3 o'clock because then it needs to go. We are installing at 5. We need to be out by 7.
Yeah.
And that's how it goes. And that's fine. I love doing that. The freelance, there's sort of like lots of freelance florists that sort of travel around these companies, and some of these people have become really close friends as well. So it's a small world where everyone knows each other. I say everyone, most people know each other, and I love it. I love my job.
Yeah, I think working in those stressful situations really make you closer together as well.
It does, and even I mean, even with some of the people that I'm really close with, sometimes we're like annoy each other as well. We just say it, get it off your chest. But it's always sort of like half an hour later, it's like,
Yeah.
that sort of kind of thing. So yeah, no, it's a good industry to be working in.
Yeah. And next to that, I mean, you're painting, you're drawing, making music, dancing. I see you dancing almost every day.
Yeah. Yeah, that is something that started obviously because of the big flower fight. I suddenly my social media following sort of exploded. I had 1,200 followers, and now I'm on 33,000 or something. And I just didn't have much time to post at one point, so I thought, oh well, I'll post a picture of me in the morning while I was having my coffee. And I had so many people respond to that, like, "Oh my god, so fun!" And then it became like I did a little twirl just to sort of show it off, so it was a video. And then over Christmas, I suddenly had a little bit more time because I was obviously just celebrating Christmas at home. And then it turned into a little video, so I would choose some music to go with it, and sort of did a little dance, and it just became sort of like this thing. And now if I don't post for a day, then I get people sort of, "Are you all right? I didn't see." But people are sort of, I don't know. I mean, I love dancing. That's let that be said. And I'm just sort of trying to set. There was also during the whole COVID pandemic, it was just sort of trying to get a little sort of positivity into the world, and I think a lot of people sort of resonated with that. So they sort of responded like, "Oh my god, it's just lovely to see all your colors and your positivity," and yeah, that's what we do, and that's what we do with flowers as well. We sort of try to send in a little bit of positivity, and sort of, because people I don't think they always realize that flowers bring that much emotion or can really move people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that is a nice way of sort of almost paralleling what I do with myself and with the flowers. And I have clients that tell me in advance, say, "Oh, we're going to do an event in pink, so just so that you know." And then I will come dressed in pink because I love that it's sort of like it's flowers are a performance as well.
I just wanted to say it's more about the performance as well. It's not only the moment you make the flowers; it's the whole thing.
Exactly. So yeah, no, I enjoy that sort of silliness.
Yeah. And is there something within in the flower industry or that you really would like to do still? That's on your bucket list, on your floral bucket list.
Ooh, that's a very good question. I haven't really thought about that yet. I mean, one of the questions that they asked us when we were going into the big flower fight was, what is your sort of goal, or what's your sort of biggest ambition? And Jan and I were sort of thinking, let's go really big. We want to dress the Gherkin in London in flowers, which is that big sort of Zeppelin, like upright Zeppelin sort of building. We want to dress that in flowers. And I'm like, that would be like so much money to do that. But that was more of a joke than that we were serious about that. I don't really know if people always sort of say, "Oh my god, what do you want to do next?" I'm not a massive planner ahead. It's for me. I'm very much living in the moment. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm enjoying everything it brings to me. So I just sort of wait and see what's coming next. Really, I have been invited. That is something really exciting. Sarah from the Big Flower Fight, who runs her own company, Intrigued Design. She runs in November a big sort of Intrigued experience where lots of florists all over from America sort of come together and sort of learn, and sort of that she educates them. And she's asked me and Jan to come and teach there. So in November I will be in. Now I need to say where she lives. It's it's well, it's I know, but not now. But we'll be there and we'll be teaching, and I'm quite looking forward to that as well, because that's sort of like a whole different kind of audience again.
Yeah.
And I'm quite that will be fun, I think.
So it's just spreading the love with flowers and the emotions.
Exactly.
Main thing, and what comes along. That's just the big question.
Yeah. I've, since the show as well, I've been starting to do a little bit of teaching here, because I used to sort of do workshops sometimes in Holland, and here as well, because there's a local historic house, Strawberry Hill House, in just around the corner from me. I used to give guided tours there as well, and I've done some flower workshops there for Christmas and Easter and all that sort of stuff. But I'm doing a little sort of like, it depends. Sometimes it's twice a month, sometimes it's once every 2 months. But she does sort of try to educate young people that want to get into flowers. Not only young people, but sort of people that want to get into flowers.
Yeah.
And it's I love it. It's just so nice to be able to talk about your profession passionately with people that are interested and want to learn all these things, and you can teach them all these sort of hacks of floristry and sort of little design things, and sometimes you have people that sort of are amazing at it, and you think they will be a really great person. You probably need to find something else to do, because you don't really have sort of like the feel for it. But still, I mean, I would still try to sort of get them to make the best thing that they can. But yeah, just sort of trying to get people enthusiastic about flowers and sort of the passion. I think that is something with flowers. If you don't do it with passion, you might as well not do it, I think, because it is something that is it's close to our hearts, isn't it?
Yeah. Going up 3 a.m, working until late at night, you need passion.
Exactly.
And that's and what I said, if you have the passion, and then Kew Gardens working for 4 weeks, I mean, tired, you can't even open your eyes, but then get all the reactions from the people, then directly you get all your energy back.
That's what we do it for. But also the people that work there, because at Kew Gardens, I mean, I'm being paid there now, but there's so many people that do it on a voluntary basis, and some of these people come back a couple of times a week, and I love that dedication that people have, and the whole atmosphere of everyone sort of helping their best. And I mean, some people, because a lot of the plants there that we use, because it lasts for a full month, the root balls have to be covered in moss, so there's like mossing. And I mean, I do that really quickly. So while I'm talking, I'm sort of doing it. And other people said that they might do like 5 plants in the morning, because they're just not very good at it, but they are there and they're doing it, and I love that. That is just the most amazing thing. Everyone sort of contributes to their own sort of skills level and their own ability, and it doesn't matter whether you've done it 20 years or that is your very first time. It's just, I love that. It's a very good atmosphere.
I mean, that's the great thing, bringing people together, also like that with flowers.
Yeah, absolutely. Bloemen houden van mensen.
Yeah.
Do you remember the slogan? Flowers love people. And I think it's true. And people love flowers, and it's just like, I think the world would be very boring without them.
Yeah, and the other slogan, we need more flowers. I thought that was a great one as well.
Yeah.
And the message sent out by, I think it was Colombia, saying at the beginning of the pandemic, saying, okay, flowers will help us through this pandemic. All those messages. And I mean, there's so many studies already for, I think, 50, maybe 100 years, that we get comfort from flowers, our mood gets better, so many other things.
Yeah.
And it took us a pandemic to find out again, or a lot of people.
Well, or to be reminded.
Yeah.
And not only flowers, I think a lot of people sort of, because they had to sort of stop with their usual life for a bit, it made us reconsider what is important, and it's not always just work. We need to enjoy what we're doing, and I think flowers and plants are one part of that, but the other part could be like art. I mean, like I suddenly had time to do lots of drawing and painting again, and I love that. I was like,
Yeah.
I wish it could be like that every time, but I mean, work has sort of taken over a bit again. But
Yeah.
it is just amazing what taking a step back can do to sort of just realize what's important in our lives.
Yeah, that's totally true. Henk, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome, John.
I know you're a very busy man, but it was great talking to you.
No,
And
I'm not. I just pretend.
yeah, no, it's so nice to talk with people with the smile on their whole face, in their eyes, when they talk about flowers, when they talk about their passion. I
Yeah,
mean, that's what it's all about.
yeah,
So,
and I believe that. I believe that, and sometimes people ask me, "Oh God, where do you see yourself in 5-10 years?" I don't have a clue, but it will be something with flowers, most likely.
that's some question I got asked too many times for a job interview. Where do you want to be in 5 years? That was the most terrible question. So after the second time somebody asked me, I said, I want to be in your seat. They didn't like that answer.
You got to be a little bit careful.
So that's why I needed to start my own company.
Well, see, it works. It works.
Yeah, at least I can say I'm a flower circus director now.
Exactly.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you
Dankjewel.
very much, John, for having me.
Yeah,
And I hope we've been able to spread a little bit of passion about flowers to people all around the world.
I think we did.